How are you doing? Hold on. For some reason, have to. There we go.
Sorry, I'm still in the setup process for our session. So.
Oh, no problem. No. By all means, just I figured I've got multiple screens going on, so I'm looking at. So I joined in and logged in here while I review the information from other sections.
Yes, I completely understand. I've got several different windows and screens open right now myself. So.
Okay. I don't want to interrupt you. I know you have a lot to do.
No, I'm just like I said, I'm trying to get all the settings set up for the session. So.
Oh, good. So you've had plenty of time to get sleep, plenty of sleep recently. You know,
I make sleep a priority. So. I have to practice what I preach. So I talk to my students so much about the importance of sleep and my own kids.
Yeah, well, sometimes practicing what you preach is not always the easiest thing to do.
That's true, but I do my best.
Oh, it's good. I just did the, let's see, just got back from 5 days on the lake from at the most off in the country. No one's there at all. Brought food, saw no one. That was it. Just, got plenty. One thing I did do is got plenty of sleep. That and board games.
Yes. I basically did something similar in July where we went to the lake and we avoided interacting with anybody.
the new kind of COVID vacations.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it looks like some people are starting to join us. So, Larry, I will see you later individually with our psychology meeting. But welcome, Leslie and Teresa, to the session. We'll wait until 10:30 to actually start anything formal. I know that people have asked some questions about Screencast-O-Matic. If you have anything specific that you want to make sure I cover this morning, you can just add that in the chat. So I will tell you right now, someone has already asked some questions about using it with Smart Notebook. So that's already on my list. But if you want to add specific topics to the chat, feel free to do so. And we will wait until 10:30 before we get started. And I see John has joined us as well. So welcome, John. If there's something specific you want to make sure that we talk about, you can add that to the chat. But we'll wait until 10:30 before we actually start our session. That way, most people who want to join us will join us. I also want to reiterate, you can pop in and out as you need to. This session is being recorded. I should also mention that I have two co-presenters today in the form of my dogs. I've asked them to be quiet, but sometimes they decide that there's a really important point that needs to be made. So I apologize in advance for my co-presenters. So. I'll also let you know that if you haven't had a chance to look at all the materials that were posted in Blackboard for our session, today. Those are available now, but they're also available to you after today. So there's a slideshow that Anastasia has created. There's a quick reference guide. And if you would like to have the pro version of Screencast-O-Matic, there's a link there to request access to that. So let's see. Looks like we've got a couple more people joining. So welcome, Patricia. If you have anything specific you want to make sure we address, you can put that in the chat, but we're waiting until 10:30 before I actually start any kind of formal presentation or discussion. Okay, it looks like we've got a couple more people that have joined us. I will just again say that we're going to wait until 10:30 before we really start. That way, if somebody was wanting to be here from the beginning, they can be here. If you have anything specific you want to make sure that we talk about, you can kind of add that to the chat. I've already had one request to talk about using Screencast-O-Matic with Smart Notebook. And so I will be talking about that. But if you have any specific questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat now. But I'll wait. According to my clock, I still have a couple more minutes before 10:30. Let's see, a couple more people have joined. We're just waiting till just right at 10:30 to get started. If you have something specific you want me to address, you can put that in the chat. I'm also playing around with an attendance app that I may try to use to take attendance in my Google Meet sessions. So I'm kind of playing with that right now while we're waiting for 10:30 and the formal time together to start. Once 10:30 hits, I'm going to move over to presenting my screen to you, and I will not be able to see you anymore. If you want to interrupt and ask a question, if you could just unmute yourself from the mic during our session today to ask that question. Once I start presenting my screen, I won't be able to see you guys on the chat. And so if somebody has a chat question and I am not addressing it, if somebody could unmute their mic and be the voice of the chat for me, because once I start showing my screen, you can't see, I can't see you guys without clicking over to you. And then you get this weird mirror effect where you see all of you on my screen at the same time. And it's a little confusing, I think, to do it that way. Okay, so I have that it is now 10:30. So I am switching over to presenting, and I'm going to present my entire screen to you. That way I can show you things about Screencast-O-Matic if you want to see something. So I'm going to show you an entire screen. And I've clicked over. I just want to mention to everyone that Screencast-O-Matic session in our adjunct Blackboard page. I'll look at this as a student so it looks like your perspective, is in the main hall, in the breakout sessions area. And then if you scroll down to the one for Screencast-O-Matic, There are several different resources that Anastasia has shared with everyone. One is a slideshow that she has created. Another is a quick reference guide, which has some handy tips and tools. And then if you would like the pro version of Screencast-O-Matic, which is the version that I am using, and so if I demonstrate anything today, you're going to see that from the pro version perspective. I've also used the free version. But if you want the pro version, you can click on that link and it'll take you to a Google form to request that. So, if anybody has anything specific, if anyone has anything specific they would like to know about, I would prefer for you to unmute the mic and ask the question. But if you don't have access to the video portion with the mic, you can ask that in the chat, and I'll ask someone to kind of play voice of the chat for me. But what I'd like to do is just show you a little bit about how easy it is to record something with Screencast-O-Matic, and then give you guys a chance to ask questions. I've been using Screencast-O-Matic for quite a long time. I use it to create videos that I share with my students. I also use it to have my students create presentations that they do in my class. So I've taught students how to use it, and I have used it myself for quite a number of years. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use Screencast-O-Matic. You can go straight to their website. Screencast-O-Matic.com. And you can start recording for free straight from your browser. Now, I use it all the time, so I've actually downloaded Screencast-O-Matic to my computer. And so I usually, when I'm going to record something, I don't go to the Screencast-O-Matic website. I have the application on my computer. Now, I should also mention that I have a Mac. If you use a PC, this is very similar. My husband used Screencast-O-Matic all this past spring when his school shut down on his PC. So I've used it on PC and on a Mac. So for me, the way that I do this is I open up the application. And so this is, if you're not familiar with Macs, this is just where you go to find all of your programs. And so this is what the Screencast-O-Matic application looks like. And from this point forward, everything is pretty much the same. Oh, look at that. I need to update my program. I checked it earlier in the week and didn't have an update, and now there is. So hopefully it will let me do what I want to do without having to update it. But this is what it looks like. And so if you've made previous recordings that you saved, those will be shown on the screen down here. So I can kind of scroll down and see old Screencast-O-Matic recordings that maybe I've made and saved within Screencast-O-Matic on the computer. But what the easiest thing to do to get started with a new video is just click the big red record button. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up this window that has this black and white striped outline. And once you start recording in Screencast-O-Matic, it's only going to record what is inside this black and white bar. So if you have a very messy desktop, I cleaned my desktop up for you guys today so you wouldn't be able to see all the things that normally live there. But if you have a really messy desktop and you don't want your students to see every application and every little file you have saved on your desktop, it's kind of handy to just show them a portion of your screen. And it's pretty easy. Do you want to record just your screen? Do you want to show your webcam? Or do you want to show both? And so right now I have it set up to show both, which means that my little camera image down here in the corner is going to show up in the corner of the recording. You can decide how long. If you have the free version, you are limited to no more than 15 minutes of recording. If you have the pro version, you can actually make that unlimited. So if you're using the free one, you'll only be able to see this up to 15 minutes. Best practices say that if you're recording things for asynchronous use, you should not record more than 15 minutes. Most of the time they suggest 5 to 7 minutes. So try to keep those videos focused on a small specific topic and then make a new video for your next topic. You can change the size that the recorder is recording. And so you can do this sort of by hand here. You can choose a couple of preset settings, or what I prefer to do is you can just drag this around and you can decide exactly which part of your screen you want to record. You can tell if your microphone is working because you can see your little green bar moving up and back and forth, but it can also give you options if you have an extra microphone. I'm using the microphone that's built into my laptop computer, and it seems to work okay. And you can also decide, do you want it to record computer sounds? So do you want it to record all the clicks and clacks or not? And then if you click on preferences, hopefully it's going to work here to show us that, yeah. It's going to show you some shortcuts, and you can change those to suit your preferences. And so you can decide, you know, what you want those pre-programmed keys to do. If you want to get back to all of that, under the box, this little gear mark will let you see all those settings again. But if you are off of it, then you can't see it. There's also an option that you can use to draw on the screen. And so it's going to put up some crude kind of drawing tools up here. And so if you wanted to, you know, like circle something on the screen or something like that, you could use that during your recordings. I'm going to get rid of that. But what I would typically do is I would open up a PowerPoint presentation, or if I want to show them an application on my computer screen. So I'm going to do that right now by opening up a PowerPoint session. And I'm just picking one at random. This is not necessarily any particular session. And there you can see that, you know, PowerPoint is opened up on my screen. The way that I prefer to record PowerPoints is I prefer to do it in presenter view. And then what I do is I size my window so that it just is going to record the little bit that's inside here. Then I would start my recording. And I would talk about my slides, and I could advance through them, and we could go through, you know, the presentation that we're working on and talk through things. Now, some of the great features I find in Screencast-O-Matic is if I make a mistake, I can fix it quite easily. So I want to see what I've recorded so far. And I would talk about my slides, and I could advance through them, and we could go through, you know, the presentation that we're working on. And, oh, I don't like what I said there. I want to re-record over that. I can slide this to where I want that point to be. I can hit this little button here, and I can truncate and re-record over something. And so since I have co-presenters often helping me out in the form of my 2 dogs, sometimes they'll bark or I have to get up and let them out because there's a really scary mailman delivering mail or something. I can stop, I can pause, I can go back, I can re-record, I can do whatever it is I need to do. When you're done making your recording, you just click this done button and it gives you some different options. So you can actually go in and do some more fancy editing if you would like to do that, or you can save and upload. So let's assume I have my video all done. I'm going to click save and upload. Actually, yeah, there we go. So here's my video I've created. It's perfect for my class. Everything I want it to be. I have some choices. I can save it as a video file on my computer. And if you save it as a video file on your computer and you have some kind of fancy video editing where you want to do even fancier things, you can do that. That's something that my husband has done on his PC. He's a middle school principal. He did announcements, and so he did some kind of fancy things with his middle school announcements where he would download his Screencast-O-Matic and do some fancier editing. You can upload it to Screencast-O-Matic, and so you'll have an account with them, and you can upload it there. I'm going to show you some examples of actually videos on Screencast-O-Matic here in just a second. What I do is I upload it to YouTube because I create video playlists for my students in YouTube. And so I may have a video playlist all over one particular unit of material. And I will upload my videos, curate some YouTube videos, and I can just give them the YouTube playlist. You can also upload it to Google Drive. And from Screencast-O-Matic, YouTube, or Google Drive, you'll have a link to your video that you can put in Blackboard if you want. I'm not actually going to upload this one to anywhere in the world because this is not a video that I would like. Okay, so that is a little bit of a quick demonstration, and I can keep this so I can use it later, but I don't want to keep this personally. So I'm going to end my slideshow. And answer one of the questions that I know was already asked, which was about whether or not you can use Screencast-O-Matic to record things with the Smart Notebook tool. So some of you may be familiar with Smart Notebook. And so I don't personally use Smart Notebook, but I know that you can use Smart Notebook with Screencast-O-Matic. And the way that I know this is I just went to Screencast-O-Matic and somebody else has already used Smart Notebook using Screencast-O-Matic and created a video. So here is one example of somebody, and if you're familiar with Smart Notebook, you can see all of these tools. I'm going to play her lesson for just a second so everybody can sort of see what it might look like.
Hi, this is my Smart presentation.
She's kind of
My
quiet.
lesson is on learning about,
but you can see here's one example of somebody who's used Smart Notebook, so it works very well. It basically will record whatever you want on your screen. So if you can put it on your computer screen, you can record it. And if there are any math instructors out there, I found another one using Smart Notebook and something called Math Type. And here you can see an example where somebody has kind of a messy desktop screen. Personally, I don't like students to see all those things on my screen, so I try to not show my entire screen.
Okay, here's how we go about getting some nicely formatted fractions that are in different.
So there's just two examples right there that show how well you can use Screencast-O-Matic. I'm actually going to stop presenting for just a second. And I also want to let you guys know that you can use, and I need to grab my iPad here. You can use Screencast-O-Matic on a desktop, but you can also use it on a tablet computer as well. And so I happen to have an iPad. And so on my iPad, I'm going to show you this with my camera. I have the Screencast-O-Matic application. You can download that to your mobile device. And I can use that to record my screen. And so I have an application on my iPad that I really like. This happens to show them the brain. And so I can record my iPad screen and create a little video of an application that I only have on my tablet. This might be helpful if you want to write on your tablet. So if you're teaching something where you want to draw and diagram and you don't have a stylus that goes with your computer and you don't have one of those fancy little tablets with a stylus to connect, but you have a tablet computer, you can do that and you can just use your finger to write on the screen as well. That's my kind of demonstration. So I've got another question here. Yes, you can record narration in PowerPoint and you can put the video in there. So I think the advantage of Screencast-O-Matic over PowerPoint videos is if you want to show something besides PowerPoint. So if you have other applications that you want to be able to show, like Smart Notebook, or you want to show a website, or you want to show a little YouTube video to your students and talk about that in your video. So Screencast-O-Matic is going to give you more than just narration over PowerPoint videos. It also gives you some editing tools and allows you to do those uploads very quickly. So Ruth, does that answer your question? Okay. So other questions people may have about how to use it, how I've used it. Like I said, I've been using it for many years now.
Leslie, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I teach computerized accounting, and I use, programs to demonstrate how we can, use the accounting systems correctly. And I was curious, given that context, do you recommend that I go ahead and request the pro version, or do you think that, just using the free version would be satisfactory?
Personally, I think the free version is satisfactory. I used the free version exclusively for years, and then only recently got the pro version this past spring. And I haven't found I've actually used any of the pro features myself. And so what I would say is start out with the free. And if you feel like you're kind of limited, then you can always upgrade to the bigger version. I switched to pro because I thought, well, maybe I want to do a longer video. But really the best practices say that students would prefer to have these kind of short bite videos. And that's what I've always done. So the 15 minutes has kind of helped me keep those videos fairly short and focus on a single topic versus droning on and on and on and on and on, which they're going to click out and disconnect if you go on too long in your video.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Okay, other questions about how I've used it? I do have students create presentations in Screencast-O-Matic. So if you are somebody who typically would have had students present, it's so user-friendly that students can actually use this to create presentations in your class. And so I have done this for, I think the students have used Screencast-O-Matic for 3 years in a row. And my Abnormal Psychology online course, in the classroom, they have traditionally done their presentations in front of everybody. Who knows if they'll do that this fall. But my spring section was always online. And so I had them create their videos in Screencast-O-Matic to present to the class. Anybody else have questions about how Screencast-O-Matic might be helpful for your discipline or a specific program that you might be using? So a couple of other tips for Screencast-O-Matic and making videos. Some research has been published pretty recently about to video or not to video. So if you're narrating your PowerPoint slides, and I did this for many, many years, I did not show my face. There was a couple of reasons for not showing my face. One of them is I just didn't want people to see my face. I didn't want to have to worry about the background. So for good sound quality, most of my early videos I recorded in my closet. A closet filled with clothes makes a great sound studio because the clothes kind of do like a muffled of all those external noises. And so for many years, I would sit in my closet. I had a little table. I would sit on the floor and I would record the videos in there. And so the idea of showing my face with my closet behind me was a little bit alarming. But recent research has showed that students actually like to see your face, at least for part of it. And so for my videos that I've been creating since the spring, I try to show my face for at least a part of it. And so I kind of introduce myself, you know, in the video, we're going to talk about this today, and I show my face, and then I can switch over to just showing a PowerPoint slide or showing an application on my screen. But if you're going to show your face, think about lighting. So right now I'm sitting in a room where there's a window over to my right, which you can tell quite clearly because the right side of my face here is a little shinier. I also have a desk lamp. I don't have a fancy ring light. I have a desk lamp kind of over to the side so that I have some light coming in from the other side. And so think about lighting. Think about your background. I have a pretty plain background. I'm in my son's old bedroom. He's moved off to college. And so I had a spare room where I threw up a table and a chair for the spring when I had to start working from home full time. Think about microphones. So I have experimented with some different things. Right now I'm just using the mic through my laptop computer, which works pretty well. I have microphones associated with these big giant honking things. With my noise canceling headphones, which I used to use when I'd go to Panera and work, I'd wear these things. The mic on here actually is not quite as good as the one on my laptop. I have an actual microphone that I used to use when I would go to campus and use my campus computer, but my MacBook doesn't have that type of connection, so I don't have that one, and it's trapped in my office that I haven't been to since March. So so you kind of experiment with different things. The college has webcams for you to check out that you can actually take to your classrooms, but you can take those home. So you're going to be able to go to the library, check out a webcam. The web cameras all have integrated microphones. And so you can kind of play around and see which microphone works best for you. You may have a webcam right now on your computer, and the webcam the college gives you might be a better webcam. So you can kind of play around with those things just a little bit. Videos do need to be sent for captioning. There is not a limit to how many videos you can make. Yeah, so you can make as many videos as you want, and you will have to let them know that they need to be captioned. Yes. Foreign language courses. Yes, absolutely. This would be great for foreign language, where you can have the students make a recording of themselves in response to some prompts, and then you can actually see their mouths move versus having them try to talk wearing their mask in class, right? So I do think, Valerie, this is a great idea. And you could do asynchronous responses. You can actually use Screencast-O-Matic to record feedback. So I don't know if you played around much with giving feedback to students in Blackboard, but you can record little videos. And so sometimes after a larger assignment, you can record just an overall class feedback. Okay, this is how the class kind of did as a group, and here's a few things that you know, I notice people making common mistakes on. And so instead of sending maybe an individual recorded feedback to each individual student, you can also use this to send kind of like a group feedback on a large assignment. There are other programs out there. I use Screencast-O-Matic because way back many years ago when I first started making screencast videos, this was the one that I liked the best. It was simple to use. It has worked for me for many years. You don't have to use this version. There's lots and lots of options. I will say also that Screencast-O-Matic is best for asynchronous. So if you're doing things synchronously, Google Meet, which is what we're using right now, works great. And you can record these Google Meet sessions. And so that may be easier. If you're already teaching a class live, then you can record that Google Meet and you can use that across numerous classes. Leslie is asking if I have them save them to YouTube or another format. What I do with those videos the students turn in is I actually have them save those as a file to their computer, and it will save it as an MP4 file. In fact, let me go back to present screen. And I have saved on my desktop here an MP4 file that I created using Screencast-O-Matic. So it saves it as an MP4 file, and they can actually turn in MP4 files in Blackboard. And so that allows Blackboard to sort of automatically capture that they've completed the assignment. And so they can just go and submit that just like a Word doc or a PowerPoint or any other sort of file. And so I have them turn them in Blackboard. And then what I do for my classes is I'll put all the presentations on YouTube on a playlist that I have created for my students. And that way they can just watch each other's presentations from a single playlist in YouTube versus having to go to multiple playlists. And I will show you very quickly my YouTube channel. So I do recommend, if you're going to do YouTube, that you create a channel. And you'll be able to see videos and playlists that have been uploaded and created. If anybody wants to see examples of videos my students have created, in the spring, my honors students had a campaign called Hello Vikings, where all the students created short videos. And those are available publicly through the COVID website on Jeffco, or you can just go to YouTube and search #HelloVikings. But here's some examples of some videos that I've created in the past. You can see that I've been using it for a long time. These two are from 4 years ago, trying to teach my students how to do double spacing in Word and Google Docs for APA style. But you can see how I've got all these different playlists created. And again, I like YouTube. I'm going to go to my YouTube studio here, where I can see all of my playlists. And the reason why I like YouTube is because I don't have to create every single video. So I actually like to create curated playlists that have a mixture of videos that I have created, and I'm trying to find a good example here real quick, and a mixture of videos that somebody else has already created online. So here's an example from my general psychology class. And so here I have a series of videos, and I don't have to invent the wheel. If somebody else has already created a great video about something, if you use a YouTube playlist, you can use it. you can just pop it on your playlist. And so these first two videos are ones that are created by somebody else. And then you can see, here's one that I created.
Begin note-taking prior to viewing the video. The video lecture should then be used to enrich notes and the encoding of information.
And this is a good time to point out one difference between the free version and the pro version of Screencast-O-Matic. In the free version, there will be a watermark on the bottom of the slide. So it'll say screencast-o-matic.com as a watermark. That is one difference. When I have students create their slides, I always encourage them to leave the bottom part of the slide sort of clear and empty, so that the watermark doesn't show. And so that is one difference to think about. But what I do for my classes is, instead of posting every single individual video link into Blackboard, I'll create this playlist over one unit of material, and then you can give them the playlist video link, and then they can go through and decide which videos they want to see. And so that's another advantage of using YouTube, is you can create those unit playlists. Okay, I need to pop back over where I can see you guys again, because I can't tell when you ask questions, and I'm going to stop presenting here. Okay. Any other questions about things you might be able to do, why you might want to do it, how to make it happen? I will say that you can get very, very lost in the weeds and spend hours doing some of the fancy video editing. I don't have time for that. So the extent of my fancy video editing, sorry about that. The extent of my fancy video editing has to do with stopping the video and re-recording over my dog barking in the background. My husband, as I mentioned, he's a middle school principal and did a lot of fancy video editing this past spring that I helped him out with. That is something that you really have to be careful of in terms of managing your time. You can get really down into some of the weeds with this. And that's what I like about Screencast-O-Matic, is you can keep it real simple and not get over into the video editing and spending hours adding all kinds of special effects and things. So I'm going to keep hanging out here. If you have questions, you can put those in the chat. You can unmute your microphone. You can ask me. This will be recorded. My email address, I'm going to put that in the chat here. If anybody wants to, kind of say, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. I've used about every function of Screencast-O-Matic you can possibly imagine, between myself using it and helping my husband this past spring when we shut down. Will it work with Canvas? It will work, because you're just going to be uploading links to videos that are posted other places. So if you work really hard to create these videos, because they are linked somewhere else, I don't post them onto Blackboard as the file itself. I post the link to the video, which you can either host in Google Drive, YouTube, or on the Screencast-O-Matic website itself. You'll always have your videos. And so when you copy your course over from Blackboard into Canvas, it's going to copy over a large amount of the content you have created. I've already had one of my classes copied over to Canvas as a practice class, and all of my web links copied over perfectly. And so if you're putting the video into your Blackboard class as a web link, it's going to copy over to Canvas very seamlessly when we make that switch. So you're welcome to go into another session. You can pop back and forth. Some of you, if you're pretty fancy, have had 2 or 3 going at the same time with multiple windows. Don't forget that you have your discipline meetings in the next session. And then after the discipline meetings, Anastasia is hosting a social hour, and they're giving away some free things. So don't miss the freebies in your social hour, because I like free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff. You're welcome to everybody. I hope everybody has a great fall semester. So I see some people are popping in. So if you're popping in and you have specific questions about Screencast-O-Matic, just ask those, and I am here to answer your questions. Anybody have any specific questions? How about?
Hi, Leslie.
Yes, Nancy.
You hear me? This is Nancy. Yes. I have a question. I'm new. I've never seen Blackboard, so I don't really know what all this is going to translate as. I've just been hired this week. I'm teaching class piano, and if online I want to have them record themselves video-wise, would this work for that, or is there an easier way with Blackboard? I'm talking about like a 5-minute recording from everyone.
Yeah, I think it would work really well with Blackboard. Do you want to be able to see their hands on the piano in the recording, or are you going to be just listening?
I want to see their hands. Yes, thank you.
So this would work, and they could definitely use this. However, it might be easier for them because they all have cell phones. Just set up their cell phone, which they all already know how to make videos with their cell phones, right? Is they could position the cell phone, over their keyboard, and they could record their hands on the keyboard, and that's going to save it as an MP4 file. And they can actually turn that MP4 file in Blackboard to you.
Okay.
So the advantage of Screencast-O-Matic is if they wanted to record something on their screen. So like if they were doing a PowerPoint presentation, or they were using an app on their phone, like maybe for math or accounting or something like that, and they needed to record what they were doing there. For your purposes, I think you just want a simple video showing their hands on the keyboard.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome. And Nancy, I will also say the cameras that you can check out from the library for your use as an instructor this semester, there are 2 different kinds of cameras. One kind of camera is the traditional sort of clip on the back of the computer monitor kind of camera, but they have purchased a couple of cameras that are on a articulating arm where you can turn it and position it easily over your own keyboard. So you may want to specifically request one of those. We purchased those for people who were doing like lab work, where they needed to be able to show their own hands demonstrating, so culinary classes and science lab classes, but I can see a music class might find that particularly helpful. So contact the library about checking out the webcam for the semester. and ask specifically about the ones with the articulating arms, where you can kind of position that camera to show your hands more easily.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Nancy. Anyone else have questions, suggestions, comments? And you can type those in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. So I will stay here kind of hanging out as long as I've got people hanging out. I know that some of you are probably in multiple Google Meets at the same time, and so you're kind of popping in and out. So if you have questions, I'll hang out. You can also always email me. My email is pretty easy, lbuck@jeffco.edu. So if anybody has any questions, you can ask those in the chat, or you can open up your microphone to ask a question.
Leslie.
Yes.
Linda Hoppy.
Hi, Linda.
I downloaded this screencast and I'm trying to get it to work right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps telling me that it goes back to the website. Then it says to download launcher, which I already did. And then it says click web launch recorder.exe to start. And I'm clicking on the shortcut and nothing's happening. I don't understand.
Are you on a Windows computer?
Yes.
Windows computer. Can you present your screen so I can see what it looks like right now? It may be something that the help desk has to help with, but I
don't know how to do that.
You don't know how to do that. Down at the bottom of the screen,
yeah,
where you have like your microphone and your camera icon,
okay.
to the right of all of that, you should see something that says present now.
Okay.
So try that. Let's see if we can see what you're seeing.
Okay, that's me. Okay, so now I have downloaded the screencast thing and I have this little doobie here. Can you see where I'm looking?
I don't think you're presenting just yet.
Not presenting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, share, cancel. Present now. Maybe a window.
You have to give it permission. You have to tell it what you want to share. So I would say
a window.
Share your whole screen.
I did that at first. I said present now your entire screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I see multiple views of my entire screen. Oh, it says share, but it's not, it's like shaded out. Edge wants to share, choose what you'd like to share. And it just says share and it says cancel, but the share is not able to be clicked on.
You're using Edge as your browser?
No, what am I using? Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. It sounds
I'm
like
using Edge.
Yeah. I've never used Edge with Google Meet before, so it sounds like something about Edge. There's a setting. I'm sure the help desk can definitely help with that. So I would say contact them, and they can kind of walk you through
Well, my
Sometimes
computer kind of crashed and my son took off everything except Edge.
Yeah.
I could
I
put it
will
back on,
say,
but
if you're going to be doing a lot of Google Meet stuff this semester, you might want to download Google Chrome.
okay.
Anytime I do a Google Meet, I use Chrome to do it just because it's a Google application. And so Google stuff tends to work best with Google stuff. But I would say the problem you're having with Screencast-O-Matic, sometimes you have to restart your computer before a program is fully installed. So I would say do that first. And then if you can't get it to work, call the help desk and they can talk you through it. I've used it on PCs because obviously on campus, that's what we have, our Windows-based computers. But my husband's computer is a Windows laptop that he got from work. And so last March, when everybody shut down all at once, he was like, how do I do this? And so we put it on his computer and he used it all last spring because he would do the morning announcements every morning by making a screencast video where he would show PowerPoint slides and then also show himself talking, doing the morning announcements for his middle school.
Okay. I will restart my computer. I'm downloading Chrome now, and then I'll restart my computer and see what happens.
All right. Good luck, Linda.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
All right. Bye. Anyone else have some questions?
Hey, Leslie, it's Nick again. Can you hear me?
I can.
So I am not necessarily asking maybe for anything in particular, but maybe if you could just give us a couple of like your biggest lessons learned, or maybe some of the pointers that you think would keep us, because I'm assuming that I'm going to have to be doing this for all of my lessons now, just based on, you know, the limited ability that I can, you know, be in contact with students in the lab setting. So maybe if you could just give us a couple of your like biggest lessons learned, or maybe your biggest blunders, so that we might be able to avoid that.
Well, I would say definitely play around with it before you're creating an actual video you want to show students. And so just turn on your computer, open it up, play and practice. Experiential learning is the best teacher. And so I would definitely do that. That way, when you're sitting down and you're actually trying to create that first video that you're going to post for somebody else, you don't say, spend a half an hour creating the perfect video and then realize your microphone wasn't working. So I would say definitely play around with a little bit and get it set. And even when I create a video that I'm recording, I will do a little test before I actually say I'm ready. And so I'll say, okay, now we're going to talk about this topic, and I'll just kind of test it out, and then I'll play it back for myself just to make sure everything is working. Because it's really frustrating to spend, 15 minutes on a video and then realize your mic wasn't working, or something was not set up exactly the way you want. So I think that's the biggest thing. The other thing is that students are very forgiving. Don't feel like you have to create this studio quality video presentation. They are just so happy to hear your voice and see you showing them something, that if you sneeze, if your dog barks once in the background, it's fine. My students will actually comment and say, I love your dogs. Because even though I will edit out the really loud, the mailman's here, barking, a bark from time to time, or one of my kids, will come in and ask a question, and they like to see that we are also humans. And so don't feel like you have to make these pristine, perfect videos. If you've got foibles and flaws in there, that's perfectly fine.
Thanks. That's good advice. It also kind of takes the pressure off a little bit too.
Yeah, and you get better. Any other questions, comments, concerns, worries? I'll also say you don't have to look perfect. So don't feel like you need to go and have your professional makeup in the studio. I don't wear makeup myself. I don't put on makeup to do a video. I feel like this is what I look like, and that's the best you're going to get from me is what I look like in real life. Background, it's better if you have kind of a plain background or something that's not too distracting and busy. I like to keep the background a little bit plain if you're on video, just because it's distracting. If you have a lot of movement in your background or a lot of clutter. And you can kind of angle. I really want to be less cluttered. I angle my bookcase out. But it's more comfortable for me to sit in front of my computer with the bookcase seen in the background. So. Any other questions, concerns, worries? I say, start small. I would also, look for videos that have already been created. Don't feel like you have to create everything from scratch. Don't feel like you have to cover everything in a video. We have lots of different ways that students can learn. One piece of advice I got early on was, choose one video, or let your students choose one video. Say, this week, what is the muddiest point? What do you most want a video about? And then focus on just making videos, these asynchronous videos, to cover those points that students are most struggling with. Don't feel like you have to create a video that covers every single teeny tiny minor point in your material. And that's why I like the YouTube playlists, because the first thing I do is I go out and see what has somebody else already done. And sometimes somebody else has already done a really great video. Like for my particular discipline, when we cover the brain, there's some great animations that I can't possibly reproduce. So it's much easier for me to just grab this other great video and pop it on my playlist. I do have to check the playlist from time to time to make sure those videos are still accessible, because sometimes things have been taken down from YouTube. So that's the only problem with curating a list of videos. I go and double check and make sure I haven't gotten any new emailed questions, because there was a way to get emailed questions and get chat questions. So I want to make sure I haven't accidentally missed one. And I will say at home, I have 2 monitors, which does make it a little easier if you're doing a live Google Meet session, to kind of keep multiple things going on at the same time. So I don't see any new emailed questions. Welcome, Nick. Hopefully it goes well.
Thanks. I hope so too.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. So I can still see a couple of people still hanging out in here. I will stay here for another minute, and then I have actually a discipline session that I need to go to. So any last questions? Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, hopefully everybody has a great semester.